Ooh, child, they start trading wide receivers left and right in the NFL today. We're gonna pick one. Who won the trades and who's gonna have the better year? We'll talk about that and more here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All righty, welcome into the new Locked On NFL, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with the help of our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am the host, the barber, Tony Wiggins, joined today by Locked On NFL expert David Harrison. And here's what we're going to go over today on today's show. Bengals and Bucs, who you got for the rest of the year since both of them found a way to win a game just the other day? We're going to go one gotta go. We're going to give you two coaches in two tough situations, and then we're going to let David tell us who he would think is going to go first. And then we're going to talk about the winner of the Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, we got traded sweepstakes. So we'll hit all of that in just a second. We appreciate you making us your first listen for the day and for being an everydayer here on Locked On NFL, which is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you tune in again in the morning. Man, the morning will never be the same with Tyler Rowland, the Madman in the morning. That's right, for more NFL coverage. Today's episode is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. That's right, man. FanDuel is the absolute truth. Just head on over to FanDuel and make sure your first $5 bet, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Just go over there and $5, you ain't even got to win. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. David, man, it was so busy today in the NFL. I thought it was trade deadline with the way things were moving, man.
I mean, honestly, right? Like the amount of moves that are being made already, I'm like, hold up, we still have till November 5th. But I mean, look, when teams are making moves, and I think it's, I know we're going to dive deeper into it, but the Jets make the move that we all, knew they were going to make eventually. I think basically you're waiting on Devontae Adams' hamstring to be healthy enough to pass a physical for the trade to go through. That's what they're basically waiting on. And then the Buffalo Bills said, all right, we see you. Well, let's go ahead and try to match, right? And so I like it because you got two teams within the same division trying to one-up each other and saying, like, look, you can make whatever moves you want to, but nobody is going to go away from this thing quietly.
Yeah, and coming off of a very close game between both of those teams last night. Interesting take. So here's what we're going to do. I heard Peacock and Williamson had an opinion on Devontae Adams, and I think I like it. I'm going to check this out real quick.
Devontae Adams has now been traded to the New York Jets, who just lost on Monday Night Football to the Buffalo Bills. What it means for the Jets, the Raiders. Devontae Adams now headed to New York to be a Jet, along with his former quarterback and his former teammate wide receiver as well, right? With the New York Jets. So we've got the Packers East going on with the New York Jets now. Is that what they need? And my first immediate initial thought when I saw this happen was the Raiders and the Jets have the same record, Matt.
Right. After watching last night and all that, this is somewhat of a desperate franchise. I mean, they're now on a 3-game losing streak. We know that I often said this is the most fragile team in the league going into the year because of the age and Tyron Smith and Rodgers and just the way they're built. But I didn't realize to this degree, too, they're on a 13-year playoff drought. Like that, not only is that the longest currently in the league, but Denver's next at 8 years. Atlanta and Carolina are at 6. And then no other franchise in the league is more than 3. And they're at 13. I mean, like a real standout for not going to the playoffs.
I really like Devontae Adams, but this somehow seems and feels to me, bro. There's some things in life, the OGs will tell you, don't chase it. You got to let it come to you, because if you chase it, you're going to be chasing it your whole. And it seems like to me the Jets are chasing something that they're going to keep having to chase because they'll never catch it.
Yeah, I mean the Jets organization. Look, we've talked on this show. I've spoken with you on this show multiple times. In the last month or so about the New York Jets. My thoughts on what the New York Jets are doing is very, very, very public. And look, I mean, Woody Johnson got up there and quoted Talladega Nights as a legit. Like, I mean, it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but he was serious when he quoted Talladega Nights to talk about why he made this move. That pretty much sums up what is happening with the New York Jets organization. When someone is sitting back with all that money and all that power and saying, what would Ricky Bobby do? That's,
oh my God.
I mean, that's
New Yorker at that. A New Yorker asking what would Ricky Bobby do
at that. And look, Davante, man, I mean, listen, I'm never one to tell somebody how to kind of go live their life, but bro, like, you made one decision for very selfish personal reasons. It didn't work out, and now you're just going to double down and say, well, I'm going to make another decision for very selfish personal reasons. Like, the funny thing is, I actually tweeted this out last night after the Jets lost on Monday Night Football. The two teams that he wanted to go to the most, this is a guy who is still arguably the best receiver in the National Football League when he's in the right situation. The two teams he wanted to go to the most are a combined 0-4 since he made it be known he wanted to be traded. That's where you want to go. And he said, right, these are his words, I'm paraphrasing, but these are his words. I'm about legacy, and I'm not about wins or losses. I'm about personal greatness. Essentially is basically what he said, right? I'm paraphrasing again. And you want to go to teams that over the last 2 weeks have not won a single game to establish your personal greatness. I don't see it, man. Like, it's very confusing. It's very selfish. On Davante Adams' point, you know what I mean? I hope it works out for him just because, I don't think he's a bad person, but like, as far as business decisions, I mean, like, Randy Moss went to the New England Patriots, like, right? Like, Randy Moss went to join forces with Tom Brady. Like, go to Josh Allen, go to Patrick Mahomes, go to even Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. Well, now Russell Wilson,
Lamar Jackson,
Lamar,
go to Baltimore,
go to Lamar, right? Like, go somewhere that is going to elevate your brand, not somewhere where you think you're going to elevate their brand, because that's the ultimate ego play is I'm going to make you great. That is the ultimate ego play, and it does not typically work out very well.
It doesn't. Real quick, when we hear from Joe Marino about the acquisition of Amari Cooper, when we get back, just jump right in and tell me immediately which one of these will pay the most dividends for these teams and these players this year.
The Bills get Amari Cooper and a 2025 6th-round pick. They send to the Browns a 2025 3rd-round pick and a 2026 7th-round pick. One of the big parts of any player that the Bills were going to trade for is it had to be a contract that they could realistically onboard. Earlier in the day, the Jets traded for Devontae Adams, and they had to take on a massive amount of salary. The Bills are not in position to onboard a lot of salary, but they could take on this deal from Amari Cooper, which is only $807,000 in salary. They can obviously take that on. So that's a big deal. That kind of limited the options for the Bills through trade. And I think for them to come out of this with Amari Cooper and the deal that is very, very onboardable, I think is exactly what they kind of had to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes down to which of these receivers is the winner of today's trade fiasco or bonanza, whatever you want to call it, it's Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper going to the Buffalo Bills because you've got the Buffalo Bills, you got the New York Jets. They're within the same division. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills now have a head-to-head tiebreaker, but the Bills are currently 2-0 in the division. The Jets are 1-1. So not only do they have the head-to-head, but they've also got a 1-game lead in the division. But beyond that, coming into week 7 now, right? We'll be coming into week 7. The Buffalo Bills are already +6 in net touchdowns this season. The New York Jets are only +3 in net touchdowns this season. And in overall points, the Buffalo Bills are +39 before Amari Cooper. The New York Jets +5. So let's say Devontae Adams gives the New York Jets a +34-point differential pace for the next 6 weeks, right? Which is where we are. We're 6 weeks in. Let's say over the next 6 weeks, Devontae Adams gives the New York Jets the power to have a +34-point differential. That would then match the Buffalo Bills, who just got better with Amari Cooper. If Amari Cooper gives the Buffalo Bills a +1 differential bonus over the next 6 weeks, the Buffalo Bills are still going to be scoring at a higher clip than New York Jets. Amari Cooper is absolutely celebrating this situation between the two receivers.
I will tell you this, though, and this is maybe the counterpoint that I'll make, and I said this to somebody else. Better situation, but we still have to take into account, in my opinion, Davante Adams is a much better player. So that makes a difference, because last time I checked, They missed a field goal that they should have made. And then Aaron basically threw a pass to a receiver last night that would have got him in field goal range, and the guy slipped and fell. So these are some things you think about, those one or two plays that Devontae Adams can make that maybe that other guy can't. I'll tell you what, one head coach got to go, and we're going to hang around in the division where David is very familiar with, right? But it's not going to include the Cowboys. It's going to include the Eagles and the Giants. We're going to take a listen to what's going on with both of those teams and then let David go ham and tell me who's going to go first. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by LinkedIn, man. LinkedIn Talent Solutions. If you are opening up a small business and you need to hire people, there's no better place for you to go than LinkedIn Jobs. It's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you find and hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like professionals on LinkedIn. All you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And today's show is also brought to you and sponsored by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks has 10 million members, and they give away billions of dollars in awarded winnings. And you can be a part of it because all you got to do is go to the -- daily fantasy sports site in America, right? And just make a pick of more than or less than, more or less on at least two player projections for stats. And guess what? You can win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks. Here's what I need you to do. Go on over to Prize Picks and download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. I'll let you know again. Download the app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, to get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. It's prizepicks.com, man. Get on over there and start having you some fun and win you some of that money. All right. Segment number 2 here on Locked On NFL, where it's your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen. I'm gonna get my man to talk about the NFC East, and I know he knows the NFC East like the back of his hand, man, because there's a lot going on. Like, we could easily pick on the low-hanging fruit. Shout out to Marcus Mosier and Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys. I actually want to put them on here every day when they're going through that misery they're going through, but I won't do that. I will say this. Washington lost the other day, but they kind of won in the eyes of a lot of people. Philly. Yeah. Philly got a win, but people are still going in on Nick Sirianni, man. Listen to what my man Louis from Locked On Eagles has to say about it.
So I get the intent of what Nick Sirianni was trying to do Sunday. I actually like the players want him to be more energetic. I think Jalen Hurts put an emphasis on them playing more free, playing more with joy, coaching with more joy, being authentic. Like, I think that is important. But Nick Sirianni, like, again, the philosophies always make sense, but applying them, that's where he always lacks situational awareness, not just actually calling plays on 3rd and 1 at halftime where you're calling a 4 vertical route and you get sacked, which leads to a blocked field goal. But he's situationally unaware, like, off the field too. Yes, I don't think he brought his kids to the press conference on purpose as a human shield, but you got to know that game, after only winning by 4 to Cleveland, playing inconsistent early in the game again, was going to bring tough questions. Yelling at fans after the game was not going to go over well. Again, with those things, he just doesn't get it.
You think we got to the point where Sirianni's trying too hard?
I mean, we're getting to the point where Sirianni's just trying not to drown. Listen, I'm going to quote former NFL offensive lineman Damian Woody, because I've spoken my mind on Nick Sirianni a lot across this network. So I'm going to let Damian do the talking for me. Quote, "This dude is a clown," end quote. That's not the full quote from Damian. Damian went off. on ESPN's Get Up about Nick Sirianni, and I agree with everything that Damian Woody said. And look, all love to Louis DiBiase of Locked On Eagles, does a great job. Fully respect his opinion. Nick Sirianni 1000% brought his children into the press conference to make sure he didn't get the toughest of tough questions from that Philadelphia media. And it is, to, again, quote Damian Woody, clownish. It is a clown move. Nick Sirianni, 1000%, man, he's a clown. First of all, he's not even the actual head coach of this football team. Everybody knows he's not telling Kellen Moore what to do. He's not. He's sure not telling Vic Fangio what to do. So Nick Sirianni essentially is getting paid to do basically nothing but apparently talk trash to fans. And these aren't just, and here's the thing, man, like, we've all been in walks of life where people who are at the top of their profession kind of get this ego about them to where, who are these other people to tell me, look how successful I am to, you know what I mean? Who are these people? Let me tell you who these people are, Nick Sirianni, that you're talking trash to, that are sitting front row at your game. Our friends Game Time. I'm looking at Jacksonville Jaguars and Philadelphia Eagles tickets, Lincoln Financial Field, November 3rd, 10 rows up. These tickets are $518. And this is Game Time, where you're getting the best deals on your tickets for live events. So this is your best deal, $518 a pop. And nobody goes to NFL games alone. So you're talking to people who can afford to drop a G or more to come see you barely beat this year's Carolina Panthers, the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson, who's next year's Bryce Young, ain't going to be starting for his team anymore. That is who you're talking to. So you're talking to people who are on one of two sides of this thing. They're either incredibly successful because they can afford to drop a G to come watch you play on a Sunday afternoon. So watch yourself. Or you're talking to people who saved and scrimped their money, bro, to come see their favorite team play. And this is how you're going to respond to them? No, it's clown behavior. And I don't know, man, like every day, and I try not to get to this way, honestly, because we don't know the inner workings of every NFL organization, but I'm here with Nick Sirianni. Every day that the Philadelphia Eagles pay Nick Sirianni to actively coach their NFL team, I lose more respect for the Philadelphia Eagles organization.
Say it. I knew you were going to drop the bomb, man. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And Louis was right, man. That, you know, to me, I've never seen a coach do that. I've seen coaches at training camp have their family around them and they speak to you. And, you know, we always show a modicum of respect, but you can't try to keep people from doing their job, man. Because, you know, people are going to kind of like tiptoe around family members, especially little children. And to me, that's a little soft to me.
It shouldn't be allowed. No, there's a lot of conversation about what is allowed and what's not allowed in media interactions and all that stuff. You should not be allowed to bring your children into press conferences. Like just bottom line. And look, if you're winning the NBA finals, bring your kids in. You know what I mean? If you're just getting hired, bring your kids in. Fine. But don't come in here after you barely beat the worst team in the NFL. Because that's the other thing that a lot of fans don't understand too. Understand this: between the game ending and Nick Sirianni going into the room to have his press conference, he has a PR staffer, usually the head PR staffer,
no doubt,
briefing him on everything that's being said on Twitter, everything that's being said on the broadcast, everything that the reporters are talking about. So Nick Sirianni is armed and equipped with knowledge of what's about to happen in that press conference room. So understanding that he's equipped with knowledge and he did something that does not happen. So when things happen that don't ever happen, there's a reason for it. You couple that with the knowledge that he is understanding what's about to happen to him and what he's about to get asked about. He 1000%. I know people have a problem with the phrase, human shield, using his kids to be human shields against bad questions. Fine. Like, I get why you don't want to marry those two images. I get that. But make no mistake about it. Nick Sirianni absolutely brought his children into that press conference to try to disarm the media.
Yeah, he tried to hide behind it real quick. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to finish this one head coach got to go at the top of our next segment, because I want to hear from Patricia Traynor. We got a rule on here too. We listen when Patricia's talking, and you pay attention. That's right. So we're gonna do that at the very top of the segment. Then we're gonna look at two teams that won games last year that are trying to make a move and a push towards the playoffs. And we're gonna ask you to pick which one of those do you think is gonna make it. We'll do all that more here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. That's right, man. Come on now, you got to get into the mood to start winning some money, man. Don't just watch your team play on Sunday. And even if you know the outcome, you still don't get paid for it. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, man, and they're gonna help you, entice you to do exactly what I say, because you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed whenever you place your first $5 bet. I ain't telling you got to win. I just said just make your first $5 bet, and then you get $200 in bonus bets, and then you can just go for it, man, and see what happens when you're playing with house money. That's right. You can do that, and then when you make your bets, you don't have to leave that page where you are. You don't have to refresh. You don't have to depend on Wi-Fi to make sure you go back and forth. You can get all the information, play-by-play and statistical information you need right there on the same page where you made your bet. So go on over to America's #1 sports book, that is FanDuel.com, and make that first $5 bet and get you $200 in bonus bets. All right, here we go. About to close the show, man. I got to play a clip from my sister, Patricia Traynor. And I'm going to call her my little sister. I was going to call her my big sister because she's the boss, but then I think I might be older than her, so I'm going to call her my little sister. So they played, I don't know, there's a clunker of a game that they played against the Bengals, who we're going to hear from in a few minutes. But it's still, the Giants are, in my opinion, still overachieving, because I thought Daboll was going to be the first one to get fired. Listen to what Patricia Traynor has to say about how they played the other day.
The New York Giants looking for the first win at home this season, and their first multi-game winning streak came up way short against the Cincinnati Bengals, who topped the Giants 17-7 at MetLife Stadium. The Giants defense played well enough to win this game, holding a Bengals offense to just 17 points, their second lowest total this season. But the Giants' offense and special teams just couldn't get anything going. Giants quarterback Daniel Jones finished 22 of 41 for 205 yards, but he also threw a killer interception that ended a first quarter red zone scoring drive. The offense also struggling to keep third downs manageable in the first half. Then on special teams, kicker Greg Joseph, who was working with a new holder, and punter Matt Hawk pulled 2 field goals attempts wide left. The Giants now fall to 2-4 on the season and 0-3 at home this year. They'll host the Philadelphia Eagles next weekend.
All right, so my thing with Daboll is, even though he's dealing with the New York media that is not going to let you off the hook, right? I know Philly media is bad, but New York media, they're gonna ride you. I think people are empathetic because they know that he didn't have anything to do with Saquon Barkley leaving, and the fact that he got stuck with Daniel Jones. I think people actually feel a little bit of sympathy for him where they don't with Sirianni. So I'll tell you this, you can comment on Daboll and comment on the Giants, but then tell me, and I already know the answer, I think anyway, which one of those jokers you think ought to be run out of town first.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, the big question in New York with Brian Daboll is, which direction did he want to go with the roster versus the direction that they went, right? Was he wanting to marry himself to Daniel Jones when they gave him that extension? And did he want to keep Saquon when they decided to let him walk? What my gut says is that he probably was not necessarily on board with marrying himself to Daniel Jones per se, but that he definitely wanted to keep Saquon on the roster. The reason I say that is because NFL teams have some say-so over what airs on shows like Hard Knocks. And what you see a lot is the Giants GM talking about why they're not going to keep Saquon, not a lot about why the head coach says they're not going to keep Saquon, which tells me, as an organization, you like to show a united front. So if you're not showing a whole lot of Brian Daboll saying, no, we should not keep Saquon, probably means that the head coach wanted to keep Saquon. So because of that, I think that if you're the New York Giants, you say, look, this dude had the right vision for our franchise. Let's marry him up with the GM that, you know, can see things the same way and move forward that way. And that's why I think Brian Daboll should or maybe will stick around. Like I said, Nick Sirianni, it is now 7:30 at night on Tuesday night, and I've just lost another minute of respect for the Philadelphia Eagles because I'm not seeing any breaking news that he's been fired yet.
There you go, man. I'm gonna tell you something, man. I don't know who gets on somebody's nerves worse. If Drake gets on Kendrick's nerve or Nick Sirianni gets on yours, but I'm telling you, you running, you're gonna start dropping diss records here real soon.
I used to battle rap in high school, so don't.
Okay, there you go. See, now you're really telling us stuff that we probably did not know. I knew about you in battle, but I ain't know about your battle rapping. All right, Pat? All right, look, man, 2 teams won games that needed to win the other day. We just talked about the Giants. They lost to the Bengals, who really, really needed to win. And James Rapine is probably going to say something just like that when I play this clip. But They needed a win, and they're in a tough division, but they have that talent. They still have that talent, man. And then you look at the Bucs, who some people may believe they're overachieving because folks thought that they just had to rebuild their offensive line last year. They had some people leave defensively. And then they playing well, and then they weren't. It looked like they were not going to play well. And then the other day, they laid a thumping on the Saints. Yeah. I'm going to play this clip by James and Jake, and then we'll get into this. I'm going to make you pick one again. This is the pick 'em, right? Pick 'em show. I'm going to make you pick one of these teams that you think are in the best position and use the division, the record, who they got to play in the tough division, because the AFC South, you just can't walk through there no more. So listen to this by James Rapine, and he's going to echo something that I said, and then we'll let you go crazy and tell us which one of these teams you think has the better chance.
The Cincinnati Bengals escape New York with a win. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. Let's break it down. It was uglier than we would have wanted it to be, James, I would say. What are your thoughts after the Bengals win with the help of a nice bounce out of bounds on a Chase Brown fumble late in the game? But outside of that, they finished. What were your big takeaways for this one?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. They needed to win. And so it doesn't matter if it was 70-7, 500-7, or 8-7. It only counts as one. And regardless of how they did it tonight, guess what we would be saying on Monday? Guess what it would? Oh, well, they're still 2-4. So that's where I start. You had to win tonight. And was Joe his best? No, he said that. Was it a tough matchup because of the front they're playing against? Of course.
A win is a win, man, until it's a loss, right?
I mean, a win is a win. But listen, when you're the Cincinnati Bengals and you were supposed to be the team that's going to bounce back from having your quarterback out for the majority of last season, and you got Jamar Chase on the field, and you finally got T. Higgins back and all this other stuff, how you win against teams like the New York Giants does matter, at least a little bit. It matters in a confidence level of where you're going as a team. And then on the flip side of that conversation, right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come out and look, I mean, during the first half, it was pretty close. And actually a lot of Bucs people were kind of like, oh, here we go again. They're going to lose to Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints. And then I don't know, man, they flipped a switch and just put a butt whooping on the New Orleans Saints that they're not going to forget for a long, long time. Those things matter when you talk about projecting the next 2/3 of the NFL season.
Yeah, I think so too. And then part of me thinks, okay, I'm thinking the best players. If you put the players from both teams in a bag and let me choose my best players, two of them would be Bengals. If you say pick three, Vita Vea would be probably the third guy, but I'd probably take Burrow and I'd probably take Jamar Chase. That's just the way that I do it. And I always like to side on the team that has this track record. And the track record that the Bengals has by going to the playoffs, like over the last 3 or 4 years, it's with the quarterback that they have now. The track record, when we think about the Bucs over the last 3 or 4 years, we think about the GOAT Brady. And we, even though Baker Mayfield has redeemed himself. So I always try to lean towards those quarterbacks. And I always try to lean towards the team that I have seen go into Arrowhead and actually win, and then go back into Arrowhead and should have won, over a team like Tampa that I always feel like they're just overachieving. But I will tell you this, the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they might, in that division, really, really be too big of a headache for the Bengals to overcome with this slow start.
Yeah, no, I think they absolutely are. And we're talking about which of these two teams, the Buccaneers or the Bengals, that are set up for a better run for the rest of the season. I think it's clearly the Buccaneers. I mean, for one, they're 4-2. You know what I mean? They're technically tied for the lead in the division, although the Falcons obviously have the head-to-head, not only the head-to-head tiebreaker, but they're 3-0 in the sinking division. The Atlanta Falcons are going to have to mess up a lot of things to not win this division. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are nipping on their heels. So if they stumble, the Bucs are going to be right there. For the Cincinnati Bengals, man, I mean, look, the Baltimore Ravens are finding their groove at 4-2. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a Mike Tomlin guy, but going to Russell Wilson after Justin Fields has been some really good things for you as your starting quarterback, I don't know if I'm with that, but I will go back to my preseason takes on the Pittsburgh Steelers. That Russell Wilson was not the problem in Denver. So you give Russell Wilson a better situation in Pittsburgh, which I do believe it is a better situation in Pittsburgh, then he should also not be the problem in Pittsburgh. And if he's not the problem, they should still continue to get wins and be able to stay on top there. The Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns, the AFC North, honestly, the bottom has kind of fallen off of it. from being like the toughest division in the NFL. And if I would have told you that was going to happen preseason, we all would have been saying, oh man, the Browns and the Steelers stumbled, huh? Not the Bengals and the Browns. But here we are. And you know, you are who you are who your record is, but you're also what your gameplay says you are. And barely, and I know it's a 10-point win, but barely beating the New York Giants, which is what actually happened on the football field, is not a good look when you're getting your second win of the season a third of the way through the year.
It isn't a good look, but I do tell you what is a good look. My man joining me here every Wednesday here on Locked On NFL, and then all of us joining Tyler Rowland every morning for his part of the Locked On NFL podcast. The Madman will give you a double shot of espresso early in the morning, right when you wake up. Tyler's yelling in your face, man. I'm telling you, he's going to give it to you. So make sure you get on over there and then slide back by the barbershop here on Locked On NFL for the barbershop. That's where you are right now. All right, you can find them both on Locked On NFL on our YouTube page and then wherever you hear or listen to your podcast. Dave, we'll see you again next week, of course, on a Wednesday. You take care of yourself, and all y'all out there take care of each other like we will right here on Locked On NFL.